Bang, recording there. All right, ready? Let's go in 3, 2, 1. G'day and welcome to the Ball Boys NBA podcast. We are talking trades today on this podcast, and as usual, I am joined by my good friend Cal and Mac. How you doing, man?
Yeah, pretty good, man. Let's talk some basketball. Let's go.
We're talking basketball, man. I've been following along. There's been a lot of trade talk being heating up recently. Some players are sitting out games in preparation to be traded or bought out. There's a couple of rumors floating around. So we're going to dive in there a little bit. There's still, I think the trade deadline is at the end of March. So we've still got a good month away before the NBA trade deadline. So perhaps some of these don't pan out straight away, but maybe we're looking in the future to something that may or may not happen. It's always fun to speculate. So before we get into like the actual trade scenarios, any thoughts on some of the rumors floating around, or do you think some of these things are legit, or what's your read on it?
Oh, there's definitely some that are legit. You had someone like Blake Griffin, I think yesterday, who literally said he's either sitting or getting bought out.
Yeah.
So that's pretty hectic. It's weird to think because I actually just looked at the deadline. It's actually March 25th.
Yeah.
So we've actually got over a month of some trade rumors, but they definitely are popping up now, which is interesting.
So yeah, the other thing though is I think the date that you can trade players that you've signed has passed already as well. So I think a lot of those players that were not available start of the season are now available to be traded. So that opens some things up as well. So it's all sort of leads to some of the rumors flying around, and some of them are just that rumors, but some of them have a little bit of heat to it. So we'll get stuck into it. When we go through these trade rumors, we'll be talking about regular NBA, but we'll also touch on a bit of fantasy stuff as well. So whether you're an NBA listener or if you play fantasy, these will all be relevant to you. So the first one we want to touch on is one of those ones that we think is going to be pretty legit, and I expect to go down fairly soon. And we're going to touch on Andre Drummond. Now, he's been one of those players that looks like he is going to sit or at least benched, or I don't know, until he's either traded, bought out. I don't know what's going on here, but it looks like Jarrett Allen's going to be the permanent starter for that team now, at least until they trade. Maybe they're going to centre back, but for now, he's a starter. I'll throw it over to you, Cal. What are your thoughts on Andre Drummond? Do you you know any teams that might be interested? Where do you think he's going to end up eventually?
There's a couple of teams that do need a big man. So there could be some teams that are interested. There's just a lot of kind of negative value, I guess, right now for Andre Drummond. He has been having a reasonable season, though. I'll give him that. But there's always the knock against, he plays bad team defense. And even he's shooting around the basket for a big man is pretty bad. Let's be honest. It's like near 50%, which for a big man, it's not good. So there's a lot of question marks. There's a reason that the Detroit Pistons only got 1 second-round pick for him.
They literally gave him away. Just literally just get off the team.
Exactly. They honestly just didn't want to pay that player option that he's obviously accepted for this season. And that's why he's in the final year of his contract. So to that degree, it makes him more tradable than he was last season, just because he had that player option. So because he's expiring, definitely that to some degree makes him a bit more of a trade chip. But it's hard to say. It's hard to say it could go. I noticed, I think you've listed a couple of teams. So who do you reckon is the front runner?
Look, from what I've heard at the rumblings around the NBA and Twitter, it seemed to me like the Raptors were the biggest contender. That was the first thing that came out. Although I've heard a few more things since then. I've heard lots of teams. To be honest, there's a lot of teams flying around. In this podcast, we're going to go through a lot of players who are on the trade table. And the biggest theme from all these trades that I can gather is it seems there's a lot of big men available. That's the thing that's sort of making this all a little bit confusing. There's a lot of centers. There's a lot of big men that are not really wanted, even sort of like bigger power forwards. So perhaps some of these teams that maybe are in the market for a center might not want to trade for Drummond. Maybe they want to wait to see if they can get him from a buyout market. So maybe that's why the trigger has been pulled yet. But I think the Raptors so far has been the leading rumor mill, which obviously from a fantasy point of view for someone like Chris Boucher would be absolutely devastating and probably ruin his fantasy value unless, even if he's traded back over Jarrett Allen, it'd just be bad news for him unless he's find himself on a third party. So from a fantasy point of view, that would not be good news. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, they could still play together if that did happen. Like Boucher can stretch the court, so you can still play them together. His blocks would definitely go down there. That'd be, I guess, maybe one hit because you have Drummond clogging the paint a little bit more. But I think Raptors would be the front runners. They need a big man. Aaron Baines hasn't worked out. He's too old. He gets injured too much. Boucher is a great per minute guy, but in certain matchups, he's probably not quite there. That's why Nick Nurse doesn't trust in him as much.
Nick Nurse doesn't want to play him. So it seems like the writing's on the wall there. So that's, and it's been like that all season.
Exactly. And well, let's say the Raptors do it. What would their ceiling be if they push for a trade there?
I don't know. I've never been the biggest fan. You're talking about like seeding.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, like they caught up a bit of ground. I think they'd still be able to get like to a 6th or 7th seed. I think they're kind of on that pace already anyway. So I don't know if it increases their ceiling too much. I kind of see Drummond as like a, I don't know, 26 minutes per night kind of guy. So he's not, I don't see him as a like big 30 plus, 32 minute a night center anymore. So yeah, I don't know if he's going to push their ceiling too high. It definitely is a good matchup thing that they can throw out there, a big body that they don't really have at the moment. So I think it helps them. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's the big needle mover that you might think.
Here's one team that have a big trade exception and probably do need a big man in the Celtics. Your Celtics.
Oh, yeah. I'm thinking we're going to name the Celtics a fair few times on this pod because they come up in a lot of rumors. And I have been seeing that as well in terms of like also the buyout market as well. So I'm not sure if, I don't know, Andre Drummond. I think he's more likely than this next guy to be traded than bought out. But look, as the Celtics, I think we can land a bigger fish than Andre Drummond. Personally, I would not. I don't know. Who are we trading to get him? Like, what are we giving up?
Well, you've got the big trade exception, so
yeah. So it doesn't have to be a big contract.
Exactly. So you could throw someone smaller, maybe like I don't know, Robert Williams, as some kind of upside. Bring in Drummond, maybe whatever else makes the cash work.
What do you think Cleveland wants though? Because they're pretty deep at the forward position and center position. Like they've got some guys there. Like what are they looking for? Are they looking for like I would have thought they're looking for like a wing kind of player. Like
I would have thought a wing as well.
Yeah, or maybe just draft assets. Like even if it's just I don't know, they got a couple. They gave up a 2nd round pick or whatever. Maybe they just want that back. I don't know.
They could use, I guess, a second. Obviously, they can upgrade Jared Allen to the starting position, and then they get a backup center plus another asset. Whether that's like even if it's like a couple seconds. If they got like a late round first, I'm sure they pull the trigger.
Yeah. Okay. See. Yeah. Look, if all we had to give up was. Yeah, a Robert Williams for Drummond. I don't know, between him...
And then maybe throw in your second as well. Throw a 2nd round draft pick in.
I wouldn't hate it. I think it gives us a bit more versatility. And it is, but we've got Tristan Thompson there as well, who kind of does the same thing that Drummond does anyway. And is probably a better vertical spacer. Maybe Drummond scores a little bit more efficiently. But even then, I don't really want him to be the source of our points for us to be successful. So yeah, like I said, I think the Celtics, we should be looking at, getting someone a bit more valuable and a bit more of a needle mover than Andre Drummond personally. And I don't think that we will. I honestly don't think that we're going to be looking at Andre Drummond. And I think that's just people sort of lumping the Celtics in there because like, oh, they need a big man. We always seem to come up when centers are on the trade block. So I'm less inclined to think that that's going to happen. I'll throw out some other names of teams that he's been linked to. The Knicks are out there, like always. They always seem to be popping up. They want to get everyone. I think the Bucks is a bit of an interesting one. Robin Lopez is sort of him and Drummond are almost like opposites. Like he's like the guy who doesn't get many rebounds, gets blocked shots and spreads the floor. And then Drummond is that big body sort of guy. So they could even like split minutes. I think that would actually be pretty handy for the Bucks and a bit of a utility play for them to use depending on the matchup they're going up against, and could come into play in the playoffs. Obviously, with Giannis there, you don't necessarily want someone who can't space the floor as well, but just another option if they don't have to give up too much. So I think that's an interesting one. And then also the Nuggets and Lakers, who I don't like quite as much. Obviously, he's a backup sort of center on those teams, so don't know if I necessarily like that. I think the Knicks have been brought up because he's from New York as well. So potentially if he's bought out, then he might want to sign for the Knicks, play for his hometown team. So, Mitch Robinson's out injured at the moment. They love their big man. Why not throw another big man on there?
That's it. Yeah, I think Mitch Robertson's out for about a month, isn't he? So
yeah.
they could use him.
I think they're trying to make the playoffs. I honestly think that they're trying to push to make the playoffs, and I think that they may think that Andre Drummond's the guy that might help them get there. So I wouldn't be shocked if the Knicks pulled the trigger on this one, like they did for Derrick Rose, like that kind of player.
Yeah, that's some good picks.
Yeah, but all in all, though, I think this is great news for Jarrett Allen's fantasy value. So I think, honestly, he's got top 40 upside. He's a permanent beast, and he was always sort of stuck behind DeAndre Jordan in Brooklyn, and then Andre Drummond. There was a bit of a timeshare, but now he's going to get 30, 32 plus minutes a night, and I actually think he could be on a lot of fantasy championship teams this year because he's a big difference maker. So bit of luck to land him there if you've been holding him all season, but definitely if he's available, you 100% scoop him up. I doubt he is, but he should be owned absolutely everywhere. Let's move on to the next one. This is another guy who's sitting out in preparation to get traded or bought out. And that's Blake Griffin. Now, I'm not a big fan of Andre Drummond, but I think there is a bit of trade market value. What do we think about Blake Griffin? Like, is he actually worth anything? Is anyone going to give up anything to get him, or is he a negative asset that you're going to have to attach picks or something to?
He's definitely negative. I don't understand how. I didn't even understand how he thinks he has the power to kind of sit out and demand a trade, or I guess he just wants to get bought out and go to some kind of contender. But he's does not look like former Blake. I think I saw a fun fact recently where it's been over a year since he's actually dunked the ball. This is like Blake Griffin we're talking about. I understand he was out for a bit of time last season with injuries, but over a year since he's dunked the ball. He's had all of this season.
Yeah, that's it.
So it's pretty shocking.
The ball this season. Fuck, I haven't watched a lot of Detroit Pistons games. I've got to be honest. I don't find them too exciting to watch, but that's a crazy stat if that's true.
He's pretty much just like a 3-point shooter. There's a reason his field goal for the season is 36%. He's really only just hitting threes. He doesn't feel comfortable in the paint. He's still averaging a lot of minutes. He's putting up 31 minutes a game.
Yeah, that's
36% shooting. That's just, it's not helping your team.
It's definitely not good. And look, I know he's on a bad team, so the shots are difficult to get, but you've got someone like Jeremy Grant getting over 20 points a game and scoring fairly efficiently. So if he was even a shade of his former self, he'd be doing better than this. So I can't see anyone really wanting him to give up anything. The best case scenario, I think, for the Pistons, or probably not for the Pistons, but for Blake perhaps, is they trade him and they attach a pick like an Al Horford or a Chris Paul situation like OKC have done, which why not OKC? Why don't they just do this again and trade for Blake Griffin, try and flip him next year, rehab him like they've done for all these other guys. They seem to be really good at that.
More assets.
Yeah, and get some more assets, get some more trade, some draft picks. Why not? That's the best trade I can think of. But otherwise, I don't know how he's going to get bought out. His contract seems huge. He's still got another year after this year. How does that even work? Is it like a stretch kind of situation like Nicholas Batum for the Hornets? Because I don't know how much sense it makes for the team to do that, really, because then he's on your books for longer. I don't know. Yeah, I just think I'm not so sure if this is actually going to happen. It seems like it's going to happen. They're saying it is, but I don't know.
I feel like he's just going to get bought out, and he'll probably sign with some kind of contender. So it'll be interesting to see who that ends up being.
Yeah. Who do you think he fits all right on? Do you have any teams in mind?
Well, you look at the contenders. So his preference, obviously, I guess he'd try to get the Brooklyn. He could have playing time at the Celtics potentially, so maybe he'd go for that.
No, thank you. Don't want him. I'd rather Andre Drummond.
I don't know. I doubt could he get to the Lakers? I don't know. The Clippers, I'm not too sure. Those would obviously be his preferences. He probably has bad blood at the Clippers. He probably wouldn't be able to go back there, would he?
Yeah, I was just saying the Clippers would be interesting if it did happen. That would be a bit of a story. Look, I'll throw out the Knicks again. Do the Knicks want Blake Griffin? Maybe.
More power forwards.
More power forwards. I don't know. I'm just trying to look at these teams, and I just don't see a fit really where he's going to actually just slide in there. I think wherever he goes, look, maybe Utah Jazz might be a decent spot. They've got a big center in Rudy Gobert. Their power forward right now is Royce O'Neal. Maybe that's someone who you could slot in there. Another facilitator. If he's got a lot less pressure to shoot, maybe he's sort of low 20s in minutes in a team like that. So that's something that I could potentially see.
I like that. I think that's a good call. I could see Utah because their bench is real bad. The game they played today, their bench just got absolutely outscored by like 20 points and they lost the game. So
look, they're doing great this season. So why not? If you're Blake Griffin, that's like a great team to go on if you want a chance at championship. So I don't mind that. Portland is another one that I sort of maybe comes to mind. You know, they're pretty injury riddled at the moment. They don't like to play a lot of defense over there, so maybe he'd fit in nicely. But not too much depth in power forward position. I think Utah and Portland are probably like the two biggest names or teams that come to my mind. So one of those two teams I think would make sense. And I think if you're just giving them a minimum sort of deal, then that's fine. Why not chuck him on your team and you don't have to play him and see how you go. As long as he's not going to interrupt your chemistry on the roster. All right, let's go into a bit more of the other guys who are a bit more long shots. A couple of more rumor-based players technically up for trade. The next one I want to talk about is a guard. We'll get away from the big guys. It's Lonzo Ball, who a few weeks ago was apparently they were actively shopping him, trying to get a deal going. A few different places have put their hands up. I've got a few ideas of where I want him to end up, but I'll throw it up to you first, Cal. Where do you think is a good option for Lonzo Ball to end up?
Well, I've got a couple trades prepared.
All right,
so let me throw this one at you.
Yeah,
I would love to see this happen, as I'm sure LeVar would in Lonzo Ball to the Hornets trade.
Oh, wow. So, this would be crazy.
Wouldn't you love to see the Ball Boys together? The way they push that ball, I think it would be like, I mean, the Hornets are already like my favorite team to watch in the NBA. If Lonzo was there, that'd be such a good fit.
Well, I think we'd actually have to, like, as a podcast, support this team because they literally be the Ball Boys, you know? Like, this would have to be the podcast team. So I'd be all for it. We'd have a podcast team we'd follow. I'd love it.
All right, so hear me out. I've got Lonzo Ball obviously getting traded to the Hornets in a package for Malik Monk and Devontae Graham. The salaries do work, and then I guess if you are New Orleans, you kind of just want 3-point shooters to spread around Brandon Ingram and Zion to work. So Malik Monk and Devontae Graham are like, Devontae pretty much is a spot up 3 shooter who can also handle the ball, obviously. Malik Monk's, heat check player, can come at the bench. They both have a bit of upside too. They're both pretty young. So I can see that happening. And then in terms of the Hornets' favor, you can still play the lineup with LaMelo, Lonzo, and Rozier, because you like Lonzo can guard threes in this day and age. So you have 1, 2, 3, Gordon Hayward at the 4, and then I guess you have Cody Zeller at the 5. So I think that's a pretty reasonable starting 5. It'd be fun to watch.
It'd be a very exciting team. I would love to watch that team. Look, I'm still a big fan of Lonzo. He was on our My Guys segment before the season started. I think he's still a great player. So it surprises me to keep seeing his name come up in trade rumors. Apparently, the Pelicans want to give more minutes to Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Kira Lewis, who are both, they're good, young, talented players. But I don't know. I feel like they're giving up on him a bit too quickly here. And I feel like he actually works well with Zion. I feel like he's in 3-point shooting has improved tremendously. He's very accurate from there. His shot mechanics look a lot better. He's a decent defender. And he's still a good facilitator. He's still good at, throwing those like full court passes to Zion. He's good at sort of pushing the ball up, pushing the pace, which they like to do. So I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what they value him doing. If I'm Charlotte, I'd make that trade 10 times out of 10. If I'm New Orleans, I think I could probably get something a bit more for him. Like, I don't know. Maybe it depends on what you think of Devontae Graham. I think he's destined to be a 6th man kind of player, which might work for these guys if they want to get, Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Kyrus Lewis to be their like starters. So maybe if you attached a pick onto that or a first round or a couple of second round picks onto that, I might bite. But I still really value Lonzo. Do you still think he's a good player, or like what are your thoughts on him? I know I'm pretty high.
Yeah, like, well, me personally, if I think New Orleans should play it out a bit longer because him and Zion, I think, do fit. They've had some great kind of like, from the 3-point line alley plays already. And I feel like the chemistry is just going to rise. It's just one of those things that takes a bit of time with some players. And I think they can fit together. So I would give it more time personally, unless you
Yeah.
got like some crazy offer. But I would be honestly actively just trying to get rid of Bledsoe. He's a waste of space. If you want
Yeah.
time for your young guys, get rid of Bledsoe. The only annoying thing is it's a pretty big contract, so it's pretty hard to
Yeah.
find a suitor.
So the thing is there, Bledsoe's contract obviously is the issue. And also I think Lonzo Ball's in a contract year. So at the end of this year, I think he's up for, this is the end of his rookie contract. So I believe he is up for a payday. I think they declined to give him an extension. Or they gave him one, but he thought he could get more on the market. So potentially this is the reason that they're looking to trade him, because they're not willing to pay him potentially what other teams are going to want to pay him. So potentially they're just trying to get something rather than nothing. So yeah, I don't know. I'll throw some other teams out there. One of the most heavily rumored team that's been linked to him is the Chicago Bulls, which I think is interesting in itself. That sort of tells me that potentially they don't like what they have in Kobe White, which I have heard some rumors about, and actually led me to trading him in a dynasty league to get a bit of value before the other owners caught on. He potentially might be a bit more of a six-man kind of role. But I'm not sure what Chicago would be giving up. Like, are they giving up, who are they giving up? Like Patrick Williams? I don't think they would do that. Maybe it's just like
I think he's untouchable.
Yeah. Is it like
at
Otto Porter, or like who are they giving up? Like they wouldn't give up Zach LaVine. Are they going to trade Kobe White? I think the idea is they want to keep all three of those guards. So I'm not, maybe it's Wendell Carter Jr. Apparently they're not as high on him as others. I think that might be, if I could get Lonzo Ball for Wendell Carter Jr. swap, I would definitely do that if I'm the Pelicans. So if that's on the table, I would take that. Another team that I want to throw out there is Orlando, because I think you get him paired with Markelle Fultz next year. Two players who got drafted ahead of Jason Tatum. I think that could be a really fun team. I think those two can play together, because obviously Markelle Fultz doesn't space the floor. Lonzo does. Lonzo's a bit bigger. He can guard the twos. Fultz is long as well. You've got some good defense on the perimeter. I think that's a fun young team, and it sort of fits their timeline, I think. So I like the idea. I think Orlando should get involved in this. But I'm a big fan of Lonzo, so I think a lot of teams should get involved.
Yeah, I like the Orlando because they need a point guard with Fultz down.
Yeah.
Injuries. We know COVID. It's not a good season to have, some of your core players gone for the whole season. So maybe Alonzo Ball for like maybe an Evan Fournier. New Orleans could use always 3-point shooter, and then maybe attach some picks to it. I'm sure the salaries will work like that. How many, let's say it was a straight Alonzo Ball for Evan Fournier. How many picks would you have to attach? 2? A first and a second?
I don't know.
Magic picks should be worth a lot.
Yeah, I think a first gets it done. I think that's a trade that they would accept. I don't know if Orlando would do that. I think they're probably in the mode where they might realize that they're probably not going to make the playoffs this year. They might look towards a bit more of a rebuild. They're sitting 12th in the East right now. I don't think they're going to catch any of the teams above them. So I think they might start to look to sort of rebuild a bit more or get some draft assets. So I don't know if they do that. I think they would want to maybe send some players or at least second round draft picks back instead. So who knows? Let's move on from there. Let's stay in the Magic though. There's another big man who has some rumors, and we talked a little about the Celtics before, and this is definitely a guy I've got my eye on. Nicola Vucevic, as someone who's been floated out there. Obviously, like I was saying, the Orlando Magic, they're not doing that well this season. They've made the playoffs the last couple of years, but it looks like they're falling out now. They've had a lot of injuries. This was like a good draft class, so let's cash out on Vucevic while we can, while he's playing well, and get the maximum amount of value back. I'll throw out my Celtics there. We've obviously been rumored, very heavily with this for a little while. I think with the trade exception, we are going to look to make a splash at the trade deadline. And for me personally, this is the number one target for us. I think this is, if we can get any player that is potentially available, for me it'd be this guy. I think this would be the perfect fit for my Celtics. What are your thoughts for Vucevic, Cal?
I want to see him traded. I think he's the leading points leader in Magic history, which is pretty wild to think about. Yeah, it is a bit sad, isn't it? Because it hasn't really come with much success. It's come with a few 8th and 7th seeds in the playoffs, and that's about it.
Shaquille O'Neal was on that team. Like, let's not forget.
Yeah. Well, Vucevic has outdone him.
Yeah, he's been there longer, so yeah,
Yeah.
I guess that's what comes with it.
Yeah, exactly. And look, he's putting up, 24, 11, 3 assists, a steal a game, shooting a good 48%. He can stretch the court. He's hitting 2.5 threes a game. So he's a great shooter. He can pretty much do it all. His only weakness really is he's not the best defender. He is a big body. The one thing you could say is, let's say you got the Celtics matching up against the 76ers. Can you trust Vucevic guarding Joel Embiid in that series?
He's obviously not the best defensive big, but he's not horrible. Like he's still a decent defender. I mean, he is a bigger guy. Conversely, he's a guy that can shoot, and on the other end of the court, it will drag Joel Embiid out. So I think for me, that's a worthwhile thing to invest. And you've always got guys like Tristan Thompson or these big bodies that you could throw at Joel Embiid and obviously double teams and things like that. So for me, as a Celtics fan, I'd be definitely willing to do that. I'll throw a trade your way. Now, obviously, we've got this trade exception, so we can afford to throw some cheaper guys. The salaries don't have to match up very well. But what if I threw a first-round pick, Robert Williams, Aaron Neesmith, and someone like Romeo Langford or something like that? So a lot of young guys and a first-round pick. Do you think that does it for the Orlando Magic? Do you think they can get something better elsewhere?
I think for Vucevic, you could get 2 firsts somewhere else.
Yeah, really? Okay.
Because he is pretty much an all-star.
Yeah,
maybe I guess the Robert Williams is the
who else,
one of the
who else
the
is
young
going to
pieces.
give up? Who else is going to give up 2 firsts that need a center? Like who else is going to do that?
It's a good question.
Yeah, like in a contending team, the only other team I can think of is something like the Toronto Raptors potentially. Maybe it is Milwaukee. If they're not too sold on Brook Lopez, there's a lot of good centers around the league.
What about Dallas? I don't know. Dallas, their center position. They've always been rumored. They love the Europeans.
Yeah,
they've always wanted to get Vucevic.
But they love white guys, that's for sure. Look, the tandem of him and Porzingis could be lethal. The Spurs could be another one. Look, I'm looking at the standings right now. I'm surprised to see they're sitting in the 6th seed right now. So they're obviously trying to get into the playoffs. That could be something. But again, I don't know what they're gonna send over. They don't really have the young guys that the Celtics can.
Well, they've got the guards, so you could throw in one of the Derek Whites of the world.
I don't know if the Spurs do that. I don't know if they want to do that. I think they like Derek White. They just re-signed him. Look, I think in terms of the young players, I think Celtics have more to offer. I think, look, I'm really high on Robert Williams. I think he's earning some respect around the league. For some reason, I don't think the Orlando Magic believe in Mo Bamba. We haven't really seen him much at all since they've drafted him.
Yeah, apparently he got hit pretty bad with COVID.
Yeah, okay. So. Well, maybe you haven't seen it because Vucevic is there, but I don't know. Maybe this is a chance to sort of decide between 2 athletic big guys, between him and Williams, if you make that trade. Have you heard any other rumors out there for Vucevic?
Well, look, I've made one trade, so I'll throw this one at you. It's a New Orleans trade.
Oh, okay.
I think that he could work with Zion just because, once again, you need Zion in the paint to work. Vucevic, he can pick and pop, he can do it all. So let's do a Vucevic and Terrence Ross.
Okay.
For Steven Adams, Eric Bledsoe, and then at least 1 first rounder as well from New Orleans. Yeah, so then obviously the Magic get the point guard they need. They need a point guard. They get Eric Bledsoe. They also get Steven Adams because the salary match with Steven Adams and Vucevic is pretty on par because Steven Adams is making like $28 million. It's way too much money. You can just pretty much trade that in. And then in the trade, New Orleans also gets a good spark plug off the bench. Terrence Ross, 3-point shooter, can go with Zion, can go with Brandon Ingram. They get off Eric Bledsoe, which is their goal. They can give more of the ball to Lonzo, and share it with that point guard duty. So I think that's a good win-win for both teams.
Yeah,
and the thing is, they have so many assets. They have all the Lakers first rounds. They get to give some of the Lakers picks, whatever, throw it in.
True. They could use, like, if it's a Lakers first rounder, that makes it more enticing for the Pelicans, I believe, because obviously they're not doing too well and they're going to finish towards the bottom of the ladder in the West. I believe. I think,
they could put in like 2 Lakers first rounders. Like, just do that. Keep your own
Yeah,
picks. Get a good
it could
asset that
work.
can work with your team.
I did look. If that's the case, I probably would do that if I'm New Orleans. I think potentially you could. I don't know. Like, do you like that offer better than what I was saying before with the Celtics? Like in terms of getting back for
If you can
Orlando?
get 2 first rounders out of it, then yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you think that extra first round pick is the difference maker there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I see. See, if I'm Danny Age, if push comes to shove, I might even do that because obviously our first round picks are whatever at this stage. And if they're the Lakers' first round picks that you're competing against, I would just do it. So yeah, I don't know. Interesting. It's a good trade. I think it's something to think about, and definitely sort of it's a difficult question because I'm not sure exactly what the league values Vucevic. I also think he's a great player. I think he does command some trade value, but there are a lot of big men available in the league. So potentially some teams might just say, "Nah, stuff yeah, we'll go get someone else that doesn't cost as much and get nearly the value that Vucevic provides us." Let's move on to someone else. Another big man, one of your boys in Oklahoma City, Al Horford. Obviously, has been playing pretty good. Obviously, I talked about him as a bit of a sell high on our fantasy segments. But, you know, OKC are doing it again. They did the same thing with Chris Paul. I think they should try to do the same thing with Al Horford. Obviously, probably not quite as much return. But if you can get anything for Al Horford, who you literally got assets to put on your team, that's a huge win. And I think they should look to do that. And I think that they will try and do that. How much value he has out there on the market right now, maybe tough to tell. But what do you think about Al Horford's trade prospects?
Look, OKC are doing exactly what they need to do. The past 2 weeks, he's putting up 18 points, 6 rebounds, 5.5 assists, and then you're kind of 1 steal, 1 block. So he's doing very well. He's showing that he can still commit to a winning team because OKC are still winning games. They're almost 500.
Yeah.
So I understand his contract still has 3 more years on it, and that's the hard thing to kind of get over. But they're doing everything they can to kind of, get a buyer.
Yeah. Yeah, I think. Look, I don't know. I reckon they can pull it off. I don't know. I have a lot of faith in their front office over there. They've obviously shown the ability to do it. And like you said, Al Horford is someone that can provide a good boost to a title contending team. If the Celtics got Al Horford back on their roster and that was what we walked away with, I think it's better than nothing. I think I prefer it over Drummond, I believe. Obviously, the contract will look bad in a few years, but for right now, it's not awful. He is still playing at a higher level. He is still able to stretch the floor and facilitate. Still a decent defender, probably not quite as good a defender as he was back when he was playing for Celtics previously, but still someone that has some value around the league. So I'll read out some teams that I've seen him rumored to go towards. Celtics is one that I've seen a lot of. San Antonio is another team that I've heard rumored would fit in well with Popovich. I think there. I don't think you'd have to give up too much to get Al Horford, and potentially, depending on the value of him around the league, maybe you might even get some assets to take on the contract. And then Charlotte was the other team that I've heard some rumors about. Obviously, they've got Cody Zeller starting at the center there, so they could look to upgrade there as they make their playoff push. Do you have any other teams that you've heard rumors for, or what do you think about those 3 teams?
Yeah, I like those. We know the Celtics need a big, and that's fair enough. San Antonio, they always bring the aging stars back into their roster. So it would be a textbook San Antonio play.
It would be, yeah. It wouldn't surprise me if it worked out really well too.
I don't know, would you play them and him and LaMarcus Aldridge together? I don't know how that would work.
It's a very old front court, isn't it? I don't know if they would play well together. I don't know. Aldridge hasn't looked that good this year, although he's played good in Spurs.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. It's something I could see happen, but I probably put it more in the less likely column than likely. Charlotte's an interesting one. I think, they're a team that likes to get out and run. So maybe Although Horford is still able to play at a fast pace, and he spreads the floor, which allows you to do that a bit more, obviously more than Cody Zeller. So I would be interested to see that sort of happen. And
Who would you be trading though? Because Cody Zeller is the heart and blood of that team. He's been with them for many years now. He's a veteran.
Yeah.
He loves the city. I feel like those Charlotte
Look,
loves Cody Zeller. That is too.
Yeah,
He's committed to them.
You might even be able to keep him. Like, look, maybe all you have to give up is like a Malik Monk. Like I don't think it's going to take too much. Like maybe Malik Monk and a couple of seconds or 1 second.
It just needs to be an asset, really. Like that contract is so disgusting. I reckon if you throw a Malik Monk, you can convince someone that's an asset, right?
Yeah. I mean, he's had some flashes, and I think for if you get like just a couple of second round picks, OKC is going to see that as a huge win because he's not part of their future. He's not part of what they want to build around. Isaiah Roby, Darius Baisley, that's the future. That's where they're going to go towards. So I think any asset that they get back is a win. So I don't think it's going to take much, and I think one team could get a steal on their hands on the cheap to get out Horford. So let's do one more really quick one. I want to spend a bit more time on some guards. And this one you actually brought to my attention. Kyle Lowry. Yeah, can you tell the listeners what you've learned and why you think Kyle Lowry could be potentially on the move?
Well, my sources have
sources. This is a Ball Boys scoop right here.
They've told me that Kyle has listed his Toronto home up for sale.
Oh,
so okay. I mean, we've seen that happen in the past, and usually that means that they're on the move.
Yeah, we saw that with LeBron, I'm pretty sure, when he listed up his house for sale in Miami.
Exactly. You can go the other way sometimes too. You got like Durant buying a big house in New York before he signed a Brooklyn contract. Yep. The house does come into it. It definitely does.
It does. Look, he could just be selling the house and buying another one, but I don't know. Maybe he's got multiple houses. I don't know what Kyle Lowry's financial portfolio is like, but this is an interesting one to me because I guess this would tell us what Toronto think their potential is this year. Now, obviously, they started shaky. They've improved steadily throughout the season. And I personally, I'm going to file this away as a bit more of an unlikely move, just because I think there's a few things going against. I think everyone loves Kyle Lowry in Toronto. I think he's a bit of a hero there. I feel like they're going to do right by him. And he can still play. He can still play at a high level. What's his contract situation? Let me look that up real quick. Unless you know,
it's about 30 mil. It's close to a max.
Is it expiring?
I think it might be actually.
I'll look it up just now because if it's expiring, then it gets interesting because potentially they don't want to pay him after this year. So maybe they're looking to cash in while they can. They don't think they're title contenders.
So I've got 1 year, 30 million.
Yeah, right. Interesting.
Expiring.
Yeah. So that makes it a bit more interesting. I think if they don't want to pay him, they're obviously maybe moving in a younger direction. Fred VanVleet. I like their rookie point guard in Malachi Flynn a lot. I've seen him play a few times and he's showing some promise to me. So maybe they want to move in that direction if they don't think they're going to be title contenders. So he's an unrestricted free agent at 35 years old this offseason. So, not someone you want to pay very much. But in saying that, I still think it's more unlikely than likely. What do you think? Do you think the house thing is enough to make you think it's going to happen?
I think it's happening. I reckon we can lock it in. I reckon let's lock it in. He is Mr. Toronto. I'll say that. But they'll do right by him. They'll send him to a contender. They'll send him to a team he wants to play for. And here's one I'll throw at you. I think it is to some degree a win-win because, as I said, it has to be a contender, right? And I apologize to all the listeners for the repetitive talk we're talking about the Celtics. But what about just a straight Kyle Lowry for Kemba Walker trade? We know Danny Ainge is pretty brutal. Kemba's knees do not look healthy. I think he just wants a vet in there, can run the court, play with Jalen, play with Jason Tatum. What about this straight trade? Kyle Lowry for Kemba Walker.
Oh, interesting. I don't know about that one. I think he's an expiring contract. The issue is that the Celtics are about to pay Jason Tatum a shitload of money. So even though it's going to be an expiring contract, I think even still, we're not going to have much cap flexibility to sign someone. So I feel like the fact that it's an expiring contract doesn't really help the Celtics. Now, I could be off there. I don't know exactly how the salary cap works or what's going to happen there. So potentially, if it is feasible that we can sign someone with Kyle Lowry's expiring, or if he takes a cheaper deal, I don't know. Right now, if I'm Danny Ainge, I say no to that. And I keep Kemba Walker, hope that his knees go all right, and at least keep him on my books for next year so that if it doesn't work out this year, I can take another run. I don't know, as Tatum and Brown obviously get older and more, get improved year in, year out, which they have shown the ability to do. So as a Celtics, I say no there. I'm happy with Kemba Walker over Kyle at this stage, just because of the age. I think the age is enough for me to say no. And I think their abilities are, they're close enough that I'll take the younger player there. Even though Kyle Lowry, I say, would be a little bit better than Kemba right now, I don't think it's that much to sacrifice the future.
Yeah, well, it's just, Kemba's got 3 more years. Like, he's on a 3-year contract now left.
Yeah.
And he's got about 35 mil. So you're still paying a lot of money.
You are, but he's on the books. That's what I'm saying. Like, he fits because he's signed. We've got him. Whereas I think you could lose Kyle Lowry and then, like, what have we got then? We don't have the salary cap really to go out and get someone, because you're paying Tatum over 30 million. You're paying Jaylen Brown over 30 million. You're paying Marcus Smart nearly 20 million. So like our cap is sort of put in with those guys there. So yeah, I don't know. I just don't think it really is worthwhile. But good trade. I like what you're thinking. A lot of Celtics talk. Let's move away from the Celtics. We're going to look into just pure NBA fantasy now. Just going to go through some buy low players so that you guys can get some trade targets, warm up the old trade machine, float in some low ball offers, and get some good bargains on your hands. So I'll throw it over to you first, Cal. Give me your first buy low player.
So I've got Michael Porter Jr. I think it's a pretty good buy low at this point. He's not playing well right now. I think today he went 0 from 8 as well, which is like terrible.
He was shocking. Yes.
He's just looking out of place. He's not looking himself. His shot's not falling. I'm hoping he can bring it back. They need him to be a scorer. Maybe they should bring him back off the bench again. I think he just fits into that role better. Just go for the 6th man. And if that does happen, he can come off the bench and score you kind of 18 points a game. But right now he's definitely fallen off over the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's a weird one, because you see flashes, but then you see, what's the opposite of flashes? You just see darkness, I guess. Like you just see this black hole of 0 from 8 and just not a whole lot else. He had 7 rebounds and a block, but obviously we know he's averaging he's actually over an assist a game right now, 1.1, which is congrats, good job, Michael Porter. But just nothing else. But, just a few games ago, 19 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks, 4 threes, 60% from the field, no turnovers in just 28 minutes. So, when he's on, he can be so good, but it's so maddeningly inconsistent that I don't know how to value him. What would you want to throw out to get Michael Porter Jr.? How low are you talking here?
Someone like in the 80s, 70s or 80s. I don't know. Yeah. I feel like that's pretty good, because he's got kind of a 50 value. I think he can hit that 50, that you're doing pretty well.
Look, he's still ranked 50th, even with all this sort of stuff. But I think that's almost a bit of a false 50th, because he's only averaging the 1 turnovers. He's still averaging a steal and a block a game, which is valuable. And obviously
it's a turnovers that really jumps him up.
It does jump him up a fair bit. Look, if I'm right now, if you were to send me a top 70 player right now, Cal, I would nearly take that. I would, even though we're talking about him as a buy low right now, I think I would take that. So if I'm someone else, I would probably even try to go a little bit lower, maybe even just like a top 100 guy. I've been on fantasy forums and groups, and people are talking about dropping him. So there's a lot of frustration there for owners. So I think you can actually buy really low. So I think that's, textbook buy low. Float someone out who's around that 100 mark. And you might be able to get a trade happening on your hands. Look, it could actually go pear-shaped. He might even drop further than that, but the upside is so high that if it does work out, you could get a real good steal on your hands. So I wouldn't be trading anyone you would really miss, though. All right, I'll throw it over to my first buy low, and I'm going to name Chris Middleton as a buy low candidate at the moment. Now, obviously on the season, he's doing really well, but just in recent form more so, has dropped off. He's ranked 29th on the season at the moment, but in the last 2 weeks, he's been outside the top 100. He's dropped off in his scoring and threes, is offering 0 blocks, and turnovers are quite high at the moment. So if you've got someone who's going off the rankings and looking at the recent form of games, his scoring has definitely tailed away a little bit, which is interesting because obviously Drew Holiday's been missing for the past few games. So I find that interesting. And you could even use the narrative that, hey, he's been playing this bad and Drew Holiday's not been gone. Drew Holiday's going to come back, affect him even more. So you could throw that narrative out to the owner. So I think you could get him potentially for someone who's, close to that like 50 ranked mark for an owner who's maybe struggling a bit more and needs some immediate value. Because I think he still is that like top 40, top 35 player moving forward, which we sort of drafted him to be. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, you could. Yeah, I'll just say that Drew Holiday is like, it's a good way to try and persuade someone to maybe make the trade and say he's going to drop off more. But Drew Holiday is just one of those dudes who's just going to help your team so much, and he doesn't shoot a whole lot. He takes a lot of the defensive assignments. He creates a fair few shots as well. And Chris Middleton definitely benefits from him. I'll say that, and that is, I think, one of the reasons he's dropping off.
Yeah, well, his drop off in rank coincides directly when Drew Holiday was missing games due to COVID. So literally the 2 weeks that Drew Holiday
makes his life easier.
Yeah, it's 100%. So I think that like from the data we've had this season, there's a direct correlation between those two things. So I think that's why, and some people might be thinking the opposite. So that's where you could use that sort of reverse psychology to get yourself a bargain and buy low there. Let's throw over to your last one here, Cal. We're just going to do 2 today. Your second buy low target.
I'm going to go with Derek White.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason I say Derek White is because he's back from injury now. So whoever owned him kind of suffered through all the pain. He's been back for about 2 weeks. And he's only been the 100th ranked player on Yahoo in the past 2 weeks. And you draft him at about 70. He's putting up about 12, 2, and 5. He's really valuable in the steals. He's only really putting up 1.2 steals and 0.8 blocks. So you're hoping it can go up. His minutes as well. It's only been about 24 minutes a game.
They're easing him back in a little bit. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, they're easing him back in. So if you can maybe get someone who's just waited this long, and now he's back and the stats aren't top 70 value, maybe you could make a bit of a push to get him because he's only really going to go up from here, I believe. Like his field goal as well, 41%. That should come up as well. Yeah,
he's an efficient guard.
He is. And he should get more steals than the 1.2. His value would definitely come up in the next month or so.
The only asterisk I'll put next to that one there is that looks like the Spurs have a lot of COVID issues going on right now. So it looks like if you just look on the schedule, the next, what day is it now? It's the next sort of 3 games have all been postponed. So I wouldn't be making the move if you need immediate results, but if you can stand to sort of be a bit patient, wait a little bit, and you're in a good position, then I think it's a good buy low because some teams might sort of be panicking with all these missed games, all these postponed games that they might be moving him. And his last game he did play was amazing. I think I tweeted out, this is why he was on our must own list that we had last week. He's only owned in 63% of rosters, and that's way too low for me. He should be on everyone's rosters everywhere. Obviously the missed games due to postponement is annoying right now. But if you can, I would definitely have him on your roster. And if you're in a deeper league and you can buy low on him, I definitely would because I think he's going to be a top 75 player basically from here on out because he can get blocks, he can get steals, gets assists, he can shoot threes. He's going to be a decent percentage guy. He's going to be picking up a fair bit of scoring on that Spurs roster. So I think he's going to be a great player from here out as well.
He's also great on turnovers. So he's a great net positive for any team. Yeah,
he's not going to hurt you anywhere, really. Let's move on. I've got one more guy, and that one is another wing player, Gordon Hayward, who is currently a little bit injured, but nothing serious, I don't believe, at the moment. on the year, he's doing really well. I think we highlighted him as a bit of a sell high guy before, and obviously he's regressed a little bit since then. But on the season, he's ranked 35th. And in the last couple of weeks, he's ranked 87th. Hasn't blocked a shot in the last 2 weeks. Obviously, the steals that were up at nearly 2 a game earlier in the season have dropped off dramatically, averaging under a steal a game in the last 2 weeks. Scoring has been down to what it was previously. And obviously with the injuries and a couple of postponed games. And his injury was only lower back discomfort, so it's nothing serious. So you might just get an impatient owner that you could be able to snag. Someone who is going to be a top 40 player moving on for a bit of a discount. So if you can do that, I think that's a definition of a buy low target. Do you like that pick out?
Yeah, I love Gordon Hayward. Once again, he's just a net positive to every team.
Yeah.
I guess his defensive stats aren't quite there, but otherwise he doesn't really hurt you a whole lot. His field goal over the past 2 weeks has been down. So I guess that is hurting you a little bit, but yeah. I love Gordon Hayward. I'd love to have him on my team.
Yeah. On the season, though, he's averaging nearly 49%. So that's another reason why his rank has been so heavily affected, because those percentages can play a big role. He'll be a much more efficient shooter than this, especially when he's playing with our guy, LaMelo Ball, who is carving up the NBA right now. So I think he's a textbook buy low. Let's rattle through a couple of sell highs each here, next, Cal. So we're talking sell highs. Throw me a player who you think you can cash in right now.
So I'm going to go with Zion Williamson.
Oh, okay.
I think you could sell high on him because one of the knocks that he had is he couldn't really get any assists at all. I guess he was averaging kind of 2.5 or around 2 for most of, I guess, this season. But recently, that scheme out at New Orleans has kind of changed a bit. He's actually running the point forward role a lot more.
Yeah. And
his assists has been really good. He's been he's got above 4 assists over the past few games. He had a 7 assist game, 6-5-5. So that's rising. I'll see what I guess he's putting up in the past couple weeks. But even his points is going up. That field goal is still there. His free throw percentage over the past 14 days is actually at 80% on about 8 attempts a game as well. So that's huge. If you're on like a punt kind of free throw team and you're like, you know what, maybe there's someone else out there if he's doing so well, I don't know, you could get rid of him, but he's averaging 27, 5 and 5 over the past 14 weeks, which is huge. And I feel like it is, if he keeps maintaining these minutes, he should maintain this because as I said, they are running through him a lot more now. So the assist should still be there.
I think for me, the key there is the free throw percentage. Now, he's someone who is shooting a lot of attempts at 7.5 attempts on the season at 71%. So whilst that doesn't sound awful, it is enough to really drain your percentages, especially if you're going up against teams that have a lot of positive free throw shooters. So if that's something that you are concerned about, based on his recent form of free throw shooting, maybe you could sell high on that and sort of try and convince owners that he is going to be this 80+% free throw shooter moving forward. I don't think he will be this year, but maybe he figures it out in future years. But I just think this year there will be a bit more inconsistency with the free throws. Also, his steals and blocks have been trending up recently. And it's something that we did see in college, and we sort of thought that that's what was going to make him elite in fantasy in the pros. But in his first season and start this year, that wasn't there and sort of gave us some pause for doubt. So whether or not you think that that's going to continue, so obviously he's nearly averaging a block per game in the last sort of, a block and a steal per game in the last couple of weeks. Whether or not you think that that's going to continue, and obviously the 1.6 turnovers. So the 1.6 turnovers, that will not continue either. He's obviously going to turn the ball over more as well. So that's why he's ranked 11th at the last 2 weeks, which I think is really high. But yeah, to me, it's the free throws and the turnovers that are boosting his rank higher than what we have seen at this season. And if you don't care about those things, then great, hold on to him, keep him. But if you do, use this opportunity to sell high.
Yeah, exactly. He's killing it right now. So if there's someone out there who's maybe a top 20 value and you can use Zion as a bit of an asset to get him, if he fits your team, it could be worthwhile.
I think you could get someone of really high value for Zion at the moment. So you could even get like potential first rounder back for him. Even if I know Anthony Davis, we started as a buy low before. He is injured right now, but maybe closer to the time when he's back, you could even maybe float out and off and try and get someone like Anthony Davis back in your team, because Zion's just exciting and everyone loves it. So everyone wants him on their fantasy team. I'll throw out one more sell high guy, and it is pretty textbook, and maybe a bit of an obvious one, but you'll be surprised. Some people are pretty keen to get this guy into your team, and that is Enes Kanter. Obviously, Yusuf Nurkic has had that injury to his wrist or hand, broken hand or wrist, I'm not quite sure. And he will eventually be coming back, and he will be the starting center again. And Enes Kanter is taking advantage of that opportunity right now and is just absolutely killing it. In the last couple of weeks, he is, let me get up my thing. He's ranked 80th in the last couple of weeks, averaging 13.5 rebounds, 13 points, big field goal percentage boost. He's nearly been averaging a block per game, which is just ridiculous for him. He's coming off a game where he got 21 rebounds. So to me, that just screams sell high, because he is not going to be starting on this team once Nurkic is back. And some people will be fooled by that and forget about our boy Nurk.
Yeah, that's it. He's so many rebounds. He's putting up pretty much 13 and 13. Great field goal. I guess the almost a block a game is kind of helping you as well. So he definitely is worth, if you can make a trade with him now, you just have to flip the switch, because Nurkic is on his way.
Yeah. And sometimes like those points and rebounds numbers just pop out at people, and people are just drawn to them a bit more, and they forget to look at the rest of the statistics. So obviously he's not hitting any threes. He's not getting any steals or any assists. His free throw percentage has been so all those things have been dragging his rank down, but people just look at those, oh my God, look at all those points and rebounds, and they'll want him on their side just because those numbers just pop out, and there's such big numbers on those categories that people will be like willing to pay more than what he's worth. So if you can get a top 50 or even just a top 75 or top 80 player for Enes Kanter, I think you pull the trigger, because that will be long-term value, whereas Kanter's value right now is just in the short term. All right, let's move on. We've got our last segment for today, and just going to run through a couple of waiver wire pickups, some hot players right now for you to pick up, maybe for the short term or the long term. We'll touch on a few as we name them, but here's the list for them right now. We've got Ricky Rubio, Sadiq Bey, Michael Carter-Williams, Grayson Allen, Jayshawn Tate, Anthony Edwards, who may be owned, but just double check anyway. Miles Bridges, Cody Zeller, Joe Ingles, and Marcus Morris Sr. From that list there, Cal, who stands out to you, and give us a bit of backstory as to why we're adding that player?
It's got to be Sadiq Bey for me. Yeah. We know that Blake is sitting out. He's not going to play anymore. Yes. He was the starting player. He was putting up 32 minutes a game.
Yeah.
And Sadiq Bey, he played 38 minutes today. 38 minutes, 16, 4, 6, 3 steals, 4 threes. This man can hit threes. He had a 30-point game only a couple nights ago when he had 7 threes and also put up 12 rebounds. So he's going to get the minutes. He is definitely a must own, I think, in every league right now that Blake is out, because he'll be elite in threes, and he'll help in a few of those other categories. Even his field goal has been quite good too. So if he is on your waiver wire right now, guys, go pick him up.
Yeah, I definitely agree with it. And I obviously did it in our league, as you know, Cal. I picked him up. I was disappointed when I found out that a couple of Detroit games were getting postponed. So that was a bit of a bummer. But it looks like it'll just be, when this video comes out, it'll be tonight's game. And then after that, it looks pretty good. So by then, he'll be easy for you to pick up. I do want to temper expectations a little bit. He's obviously not going to shoot as well as he has in the last couple of weeks. He got the player of the week last week in the NBA, which was super random. Yeah, he was killing it.
It's because Detroit were 3-1, which is also pretty random.
Yeah, super random. So, but he had a game where he scored 30.7 threes, shooting 83%. That's obviously not sustainable. And he doesn't offer too much outside of points, threes, and maybe some rebounds. So I would temper expectations a little bit, but definitely take a flyer, add him if he's out there, and just see what happens, basically, would be my advice. I want to highlight Ricky Rubio as one of their pickups. News came out today, or yesterday, by the time this video comes out, that D'Angelo Russell is out for an extended period of time. I think it's it's close to like 4 to 6 weeks or something like that. So it's a decent chunk of the rest of the season. So I think Ricky Rubio should be picked up everywhere, especially if you're in need of some steals and assists, trickle of threes and good free throw percentage. So I definitely think he should be added. And another player that I think is, if you're looking for point guard stats, is Michael Carter-Williams. Obviously, bit of a bummer news for owners of Cole Anthony. Had that sore shoulder, was questionable, and then obviously now we found out today that he has fractured his ribs. So he is out for another 4 to 6 weeks and probably won't be seen until the All-Star game. So they literally have no other point guard on their roster. So Michael Carter-Williams is like the only guy. So if you need some assists, you need some steals and out of position rebounds, he's good. Just be careful, the percentages will be pretty shit. And he will not do well from the field or either from the free throw line as well. So those are guys that you consider for a bit of short-term point guard stats. You got
those Magic guys. They can't get a break, and they're
unlucky,
just getting destroyed. But Michael Carter-Williams has been historically elite in steals as well. So
yes,
he can be good in that category. He put up a 21-7-7 game, I think, pretty much in his debut back. Yeah. So he's doing pretty well. Definitely pick him up. He should not be on the waiver wire right now.
Yeah.
And I guess I'll touch on Anthony Edwards, who you picked up. If he's on the waiver wire, I know a lot of people, he's the rookie, probably isn't. I think he's 70% owned. But ever since he got the starting role, he has been putting up top 100 value. The past couple of weeks he has been, and he put up 18 points, 5 rebounds, 3.5 assists with almost a block and a steal a game as well. So, and with that, the 2-3 points a game. So he has been an actual fantasy contributor over the past couple of weeks. So if he maintains his start, I understand Karl Anthony Towns will be coming back now as well, but he played well today. He put up another 25, and that was with Karl Anthony Towns. So it was 28, 7, and 5 today with a steal and 2 blocks. So, I mean, I guess him and Karl Anthony can work. I mean, Karl Anthony is one of those guys who can stretch the court for everyone as well as working inside. So I think he is a net positive for a lot of these kind of players.
I definitely agree. I think I was a bit skeptical at first because he was putting up some big numbers before Cat was back. I wasn't sure how permanent the move into the starting role was there. They've still got those crowded backcourt, but now we've seen them play with Karl Anthony Towns. He obviously led the team in scoring today. The scoring is very valuable. Like, even if he doesn't do anything else, it is valuable still, and he is putting up some decent threes, some decent assists and steals. So I think definitely he likely is already owned in your league, but just in case, go have a look, make sure because if he's there, I would definitely scoop him up, because now that D'Angelo Russell's out, he's going to be scoring even more. So I will throw out one more player who I didn't mention earlier, who maybe not add just yet, but if you're in a deeper league, and I added in our dynasty league, Jared Vanderbilt is someone who I am keeping a close eye on in regular redraft league. He is a forward for the Minnesota Timberwolves and has started the last 2 games. He's a bit of a defensive specialist, gets some blocks and steals, and had a big rebounding game today. It looks like they're leaning towards him and Cat starting together because Karl Anthony Towns can spread the floor, and is someone who, I think, if you ask for some defensive stats with some rebounds, probably not going to give you too much scoring or free throw percentage, but someone, if you need those stats, that I would look at. And if you're in a deeper league, I would take a speculative ad if you can afford it. So just keep an eye on him and keep in your watch list in standard leagues. And if he puts another game or 2 together with decent value, I would scoop up pretty quickly. Cool.
And I'll do one more shout out as well to with the whole Blake Griffin thing happening. Isaiah Stewart as well could get some minutes. So keep an eye on him. Just add him to the watch list, because he's actually got one of the highest offensive rebound percentages in the league. He hunts those boards, and he can get blocks for you as well. So he could be worth. I'll just keep on your watch list.
Yeah, we did have him as one of our stash candidates in our earlier video. If you want to go check that out. We had a few players to keep in mind with stashes, and with all the fantasy trades and stuff we were talking about today, refer back to that video and it'll give you a good idea on who to keep an eye on in case some of these trades do happen, and which players have some high sort of upside if some trades go down before the deadline. All right, well, we might wrap it up there, Cal. Thanks for joining me today, mate. Always a pleasure talking hoops.
Always fun.
Cheers, mate. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Give us a like on the video. Let your mates know if they're into fantasy basketball. Listen along on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your podcasts. And we will catch you guys next time. See you later. Bye.